Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that'll have you tapping your feet in no time. We're going deep into the Congolese music scene with Verckys and his legendary band Orch.Veve.
And we're going way beyond just names and dates. Trying to understand just what made Verckys so
influential.
Earn that nickname Mr. Dynamite.
Right, and we've got this fantastic online discography from Daateku channel to help guide us.
Absolutely.
But before we get to those sonic gems, let's start with the man himself.
Okay.
Who was Verckys?
Well, he was born Georges Kiawangana in 1944.
Okay.
But he took the stage name Verckys after, get this, mishearing the name King Curtis, the American saxophonist.
Talk about a sign.
All right.
But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of musicians who came from humble beginnings, Verckys' family was actually quite wealthy.
That's a fascinating contrast.
It is.
Isn't it? It makes you wonder how that background shaped his musical journey.
Absolutely. Now he started his career playing in various bands.
And eventually he joined the famous OK Jazz in 1963.
Yeah.
But then there's this irreparable rift that caused him to form Orch.Veve in 1969.
Right.
Any idea what happened there?
You know, our source doesn't really go into specifics, but it must have been pretty major for him to leave such a legendary group.
Yeah.
What we do know is that Verckys wasn't just a talented musician. He was incredibly versatile.
Okay.
I mean, he could play saxophone, he could sing, he could handle the guitar.
Wow.
Keyboards.
Yeah.
And he was also a skilled studio engineer.
Wow. A true Renaissance man of music.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got talent.
Yeah.
He's got drive.
Yep.
What made Orch.Veve stand out musically?
Yeah.
Our source mentions a more stripped-down sound compared to OK Jazz.
Yeah.
Which allowed for those incredible sax solos in the 7.
Yeah. And I think that's where Verckys' multi-instrumentalism really comes through. By stripping down the arrangements, it created space for these really intricate layered rhythms.
Yeah, that were both very danceable and very complex.
Right.
You know, think about it. He understood how every instrument contributed to the overall texture.
Yeah.
So he could kind of manipulate those elements to create a really unique sound.
That's a really brilliant insight. It's like he was composing on multiple levels at the same time.
Right.
Now, for those who are new to Congolese rumba, can you tell us a little bit more about the sabin?
Sure.
And why it's such a crucial part of the music?
So imagine, you know, the music is already pulsing, drawing you in.
Okay.
And then the sabin hits. And it's like this explosion of energy.
Okay.
It's that instrumental section where the musicians really get to show off their skills, improvise, and take the music to unexpected places.
So it's not just about soloing, it's about this like conversation between the musicians.
Exactly.
Okay.
And for Verckys, with his understanding of both traditional Congolese music and these newer influences, he knew how to craft a sabin that was both authentic and innovative.
Okay. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Me too.
So we've got the stripped down sound, we've got these electrifying sevens. What else can you tell us about the Veve sound?
It was undeniably dance music.
Okay.
I mean, in fact, Verckys even invented a dance called the kavacha.
Oh, wow.
Which would later evolve into soukous.
Oh, okay.
You know, and this shows his understanding of how music moves people.
Literally.
Literally. And his ability to anticipate and really shape cultural trends.
He wasn't just riding the wave, he was creating it.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some of those early hits that got people moving.
Yeah.
We've got Mfumwa, Benkoko Baboy, and Sakul's Fifi Solange.
Right.
What can you tell us about these tracks?
They perfectly encapsulate that raw, energetic sound that Verckys was cultivating.
Okay.
Mfumwa especially was a smash hit.
Yeah.
It's just full of driving rhythms, catchy melodies, and those signature Verckys sax lines that just burrow into your brain.
It's amazing to think that these songs recorded in the early 70s still have the power to get people on the dance floor today.
Yeah.
That's a testament to his talent.
Absolutely.
And vision.
Yeah, he wasn't just making music for the moment. He was building something that would stand the test of time.
It's like he tapped into something universal with his music.
I think so.
But as we're about to learn, Verckys wasn't content with just being a band leader.
No.
He had bigger ambitions, right?
Absolutely. He wasn't just a musician. He was a born entrepreneur.
Welcome back, Deep Divers.
Yeah.
We left off talking about how Verckys wasn't just a musical powerhouse, he was a bona fide entrepreneur.
That's right. In 1974, he founded Editions.Veve,
Okay.
which he later renamed Zadies.
Okay.
Short for Zir Disc. Now, this is a groundbreaking move.
Hold on, I need to make sure I'm grasping the full significance here. We're talking about one of the earliest African-owned record labels.
Exactly. Imagine the music scene at the time.
Yeah.
Dominated by larger, often international companies.
Right.
But Verckys saw an opportunity to not just create music, but to build a platform for Congolese artists.
So he was taking control of the production, the distribution, the whole process.
The whole thing.
That's incredible. It's like he was laying the foundation for a more independent, self-sustaining Congolese music industry.
He was definitely ahead of his time in that sense.
Yeah, and this entrepreneurial spirit extended beyond the label.
It did.
He also owned a nightclub, a shop, and the famous Veve Center.
That's right.
Remind me what the Veve Center was all about. Was it just a performance venue?
It was so much more than that.
Okay.
It was like a hub for musicians.
Yeah.
A rehearsal space. A recording studio.
Oh, wow.
Basically a breeding ground for talent.
Wow.
Countless major Congolese bands spent time there, honing their skills, collaborating, pushing the boundaries of the music.
Sounds legendary. Our source mentions that Verckys had an unerring ear for quality.
Yes.
And I'm starting to see how that played out beyond his own band.
Absolutely.
It's like he was fostering a whole ecosystem of talent.
Exactly. He wasn't just looking for individual stars.
Right.
He was cultivating a scene.
Yeah.
Nurturing the next generation of Congolese musicians.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
And dig deeper into his musical evolution.
All right.
We talked about the stripped down sound of Veve.
Right.
But how did that style evolve over time?
Oh, absolutely.
Did he experiment, incorporate new influences?
Remember, he wasn't afraid to break from tradition.
Right.
As we saw with the Cavacha dance.
Yeah.
You know, over time, his music moved away from the older rumba style and embraced a faster, more modern sound.
Okay.
Think like driving rhythms, intricate guitar lines, and a real emphasis on the seven.
Ooh, so things are getting even more electric.
Yeah, they are.
Can you give us any specific examples of this shift in the style?
Listen to the Sona Deskins in Africa LP series.
Okay.
They're like a musical timeline of Verckys' evolution.
Gotcha.
You'll hear those rumba roots.
Yeah.
But with this modern twist that was captivating audiences, especially younger listeners.
So he is not just innovating musically.
Right.
He's tapping into the changing tastes of a generation.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that he produced a ton of other artists as well.
Yes.
Give us some highlights. Who are some of the bands that we should be checking out?
Oh, the list is huge. But definitely give Les Grands Maquisards a listen.
Okay.
They were known for their fiery energy and those intricate guitar duels that Verckys was so good at capturing in the studio.
Yeah.
And then there's Orchestre Kiem, who had a more soulful sound, often incorporating horns and lush vocal harmonies.
I'm already feeling overwhelmed in the best possible way.
It's a lot.
It's like there's a whole universe of Congolese music waiting to be discovered.
Right.
But speaking of discoveries, let's get back to that online discography for a minute.
Right.
It mentions a standout track called Mama Jello from the Zabo LP.
Mama Jello.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant track that showcases everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
Those driving rhythms, the interplay between the instruments, and Verckys' unique ability to create a soundscape that's both familiar and surprising.
Okay, so this is going straight to the top of my listening list.
It should.
But for those of us who haven't had the pleasure of experiencing this musical masterpiece yet, can you paint us a sonic picture?
Sure.
What makes Mama Jella so special?
Imagine like a pulsing bass line that anchors the track.
Okay.
Layers of guitar weaving in and out, and then Verckys' sax enters, soaring above it all. And then the vocals. Soulful, passionate, telling a story that transcends language.
I'm getting chills just from your description.
It's a powerful track.
It sounds like a perfect blend of tradition and innovation.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a recurring theme in Verckys' work.
It does.
Now, I know you mentioned that we can trace his evolution through the Sona Discography and Africa series. But are there any specific albums that you would recommend for someone just starting their Verckys journey?
Dynamite Verckys is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's a collection of some of his biggest biggest hits from the early 70s.
Gotcha.
And it really captures that raw energy that made him so popular.
And I remember you mentioned that Toute l'Afrique Danse Vol 11 is a fantastic example of that stripped down sound.
Right.
With Mfumbwa appearing on both sides of the LP.
Right.
It's like stepping back in time.
It is.
And if you're looking for something a little later in his career, Verckys and Orch.Veve is a fascinating listen.
Yeah.
You can hear how his time in France influenced his music.
Absolutely.
Adding new textures and influences to that Congolese foundation.
Yeah, you can hear that European influence.
Okay, listeners, I hope you've got your notepads ready.
Let's write down.
Because we're throwing a lot of musical recommendations your way.
That's right.
But before we get too lost in the discography, I want to come back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Veracky's wealthier upbringing.
Right.
How do you think that might have impacted his career, especially in contrast to many of his contemporaries?
It's an interesting question. It definitely set him apart from a lot of musicians who were struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
It's possible that his background gave him more freedom to experiment, to take risks, to invest in equipment and resources that others might not have had access to.
It also makes me think about the business side of things. Did his upbringing maybe equip him with a different kind of entrepreneurial savvy?
It's certainly possible. Remember, he was founding a record label. Running a nightclub, managing a whole complex dedicated to music. These weren't just creative endeavors. They required business acumen.
So maybe his background combined with his inherent talent and drive created this perfect storm for success. It's like all the pieces fell into place.
And remember, he was navigating a rapidly changing music industry.
Right.
Congolese music was evolving. Verckys, with his unique blend of artistic vision and business savvy, was perfectly positioned to lead the way.
And lead he did, but we've only scratched the surface of his story.
Oh yeah.
Get ready, deep divers, because in part 3 we're going even deeper into the world of Verckys, uncovering more musical treasures and exploring the enduring legacy of this Congolese music legend.
Baloko bakanga biso maele boye bikeka bakoko bango baboyaka kisa bakoko bango bandimaka te kasi na ndako nzambe biso tomonaka tokosambela chapele na maboko tokosambela bikeko bitoni ndako kasi bikeko yango semibele.
Welcome back to the final part of our Verckys deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored his music, his business ventures, and his influence on Congolese music.
Right. But we can't wrap up without taking a closer look at some of those intriguing details from his career. And of course,
the lasting impact he's had.
Exactly. In part 2, we were just starting to talk about Verckys and Orch.Veve, the period when he returned to performing after focusing on his business ventures.
And what's fascinating is that he didn't just pick up where he left off.
Right.
He formed a new band, Veve International.
Okay.
And brought in musicians who'd actually been part of OK Jazz.
Oh, wow.
Joe Mpoyi and Dizzy Manjeko.
Talk about a power move. It's like he was saying, I'm back and I'm bringing the best with me.
Yeah.
But why Paris? What was it about the Parisian music scene that might have drawn him back to performing?
Well, Paris in the 80s was this incredible melting pot of musical influences.
Yeah.
There was a thriving African music scene there, and Verckys likely saw an opportunity to introduce his sound to a wider audience, while also incorporating new ideas and collaborators.
So it was a chance to evolve his music.
Absolutely.
Further.
And you can hear that evolution in tracks like Lucio Kalinga Guy and Predonostic from the Verckys of Paris album.
Okay.
You've got those classic Congolese rhythms.
Yeah.
but there's a certain sophistication, a European flair that sets it apart.
I love that it's like he was bridging musical worlds.
He was.
Now, our source also mentions a few other tracks from this era.
Okay.
Nakobalayo Denise and Lina Omasana Boy.
Right.
What stands out about these songs?
They're pure Verckys.
Okay.
High-energy dance tracks with catchy melodies and those irresistible grooves that just make you want to move.
Yeah.
They're a reminder that even as he was experimenting with new sounds, he never lost sight of what made him so successful in the first place.
Yeah.
The ability to create music that connects with people on a visceral level.
It's that magic formula. Innovation grounded in tradition.
It is.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to Nakamuto Naka.
Right.
The ballad that our source described as their favorite. Why do you think this particular song resonated so deeply with them?
Well, ballads allow artists to showcase a different side of their musicality.
Okay.
And the Verckys ballads are no exception.
Right.
Naoko Michinoku is full of emotion, longing, and a sense of vulnerability that you might not expect from Mr. Dynamite.
It's like peeling back another layer of the onion, revealing a depth of feeling.
Right.
That might surprise some listeners.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show how versatile he was as a musician.
Exactly. He wasn't just about those high-energy dance tracks. He could also craft these beautifully nuanced, introspective pieces.
Okay, so we've journeyed through Verckys' career from his early days with Orch.Veve to his Parisian adventures
to Paris.
But what about his legacy? How is his influence felt in Congolese music today?
I mean, his fingerprints are everywhere.
Yeah.
He's credited with helping to shape the sound of modern Congolese music, particularly soukous.
Okay.
Many contemporary artists cite him as an influence.
Right.
And you can hear echoes of his style in their work.
So he wasn't just a musical innovator.
Right.
He was a musical pioneer.
Yeah.
Paving the way for future generations.
And let's not forget his impact as an entrepreneur.
Right.
You know, he showed Congolese musicians that it was possible to build their own platforms, control their own destinies.
Right.
His record label, Editions Veve, played a crucial role in developing the Congolese music industry.
Absolutely.
Giving artists more ownership and control.
He wasn't just creating music.
No.
He was creating opportunities.
Precisely. And that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive to create something lasting is perhaps his most enduring legacy.
It's a legacy that continues to inspire musicians.
Absolutely.
Producers and entrepreneurs across Africa and beyond.
And the world.
Well said. So as we conclude our Verckys deep dive, I want to encourage our listeners to keep exploring, dig into that discography, discover your own favorite tracks.
Yes.
And share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, what surprised you?
Yeah.
What resonated with you?
And most importantly, let Verckys' music move you, inspire you, and perhaps even encourage you to create something extraordinary yourself.
Well said.
Beautifully put. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Into the world of Verckys. Until next time.
Yes.
Keep diving deep and keep the music playing.
Mwana braza. Oh mama, kanisa mokeo. Oh mama, pesa sango na peya. Oh mama, kanisa mokeo. Oh mama, pesa sango na peya. Oh mama, kanisa mokeo. Grand pivot de maratuna braza. Selanga na pakwa mama. Yego mwana braza. Oh mama, kanisanga mokeo. Oh mama, pesa sango na peya. Oh mama, kanisanga mokeo. Oh mama, pesa sango na